Welcome. Today we're going to take a look at how we can actually work with the JFileChooser so we can pick files we can work with inside a GUI Java project. I'm working with my data structures project, so that's where I'm actually introducing this right now, but you can use this in any Java Swing GUI or even things that are just using some small pieces of code to run that off. But we'll go ahead and take a look at that so we can actually go through the process and see what we're working with. As always, we'll start with our imports because in order to use something, we have to actually add the library to it. And as you can see right here, I have on line 13 on my import Java Swing.jFileChooser. So I've got that import right there so we can actually get access to that so we can work with that inside our code. And so the JFileChooser imports the first thing we have to actually handle before we can actually do anything with this. I'm not doing anything with my data members in there, so I can actually scroll past that, and it's not being initialized as a data member. There's no reason to even look at the constructor right now because that's not what we're going to be working with. Instead, what I want to do is I want to take a look at the actual methods we're working with to actually make that happen. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. I've got a couple methods we're going to work with this. We have a getPath method, a customSave method, and a pickFileToLoad method we'll be working with. And we'll be attaching those methods to button listeners so we actually work with the process to see how that's going to go. So we're going to integrate this into my existing project so we can see how we can actually make that happen. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the getPath method. As you can see right here in my getPath method, it's a private string method that has named getPath, which takes a string type as a parameter, which indicates what type of operation I'm going to perform. And because it's a string method, it's obviously going to be returning a string back for this because that's how we work with a path, is as a string. And it's private because I'm only working with it inside this individual project. It doesn't need to be exposed anywhere else. If you're working with other things where you're going to need share that out, of course, that could be a public method. But since that's what I'm working with, I don't have to do that on there. Starting with the stub, I simply just declare a path variable and return it, so I just get access to that. So as you can see right here, I have my getPath method. My string path is equal to dot. The dot represents the current directory we're working with right now by default. So it gives us a start to load, a place to work with immediately as our path. So just in case we've got a path immediately, and I return that variable at the very end. So I always declare and initialize a variable in a Java method before I do anything else. That's the first thing I do, just to get that stub going. Then we have a int result, and I assign that value JFileChooser.error option. I want to make sure that when I'm creating this, that we want to make sure that we know we haven't got the right answer. So I'm assigning it the default answer for wrong. In this case of a JFileChooser, it's the error option. So that constant is how I can actually explicitly call that this is not the right answer. And then I have a JFileChooser local variable I'm initializing. It's just an empty constructor call right there, easy peasy. And then we have an if-else block to determine what kind of operation we're performing with this, and that's where the parameter comes into play. If my type that I'm working with is a save type, so I'm typing in string save in there, then I want to go to the save. Otherwise, I'm choosing that I'm opening a file, so I have that right there. So I only have to have two options with this. Makes it really easy. So if I have a save type, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my file selection mode to directories only. So this way I can only choose a directory, because if I'm trying to save a file right here, I want to make sure I save the actual path to that file so I can use that, because I'm going to be getting the actual location for that later on where I can actually save that information somewhere else, which we'll see here in just a minute. Then I assign result the value of FileChooser.showSaveDialog, passing it this, the reference to the data panel I'm talking to right now. I want to be able to get it so the data panel is who owns that pop-up window, who's going to control where it shows up on the screen. That's what this parameter is attached to for that. And I assign that back into results saying that, oh, here, I made a choice with this. And if that choice is approved, like actually hit the approve button, I didn't hit cancel, I didn't hit red X in the corner, I didn't get any of those things out of there, then that means I'm able to proceed and I've got an actual valid path for that. And that path will be saying, oh, I'm going to assign a path instead of the dot right there. I'm going to assign the file chooser. I'm going to get the current directory that's selected and then get the absolute path to that. And I'm going to append a slash to that to indicate that, yes, I know I'm in a directory. I'm going to go inside that so I can actually get the file name and put that on at the end. And that's a great way to make sure you have the correct file name plus the path on that, so you append that slash to it, and we're good to go. However, if I'm loading a file, then my else block comes into play. My result is set to FileChooser.showOpenDialog this, so it's a slightly different one. Instead of showSaveDialog, showOpenDialog. And then again, I check to make sure after I've clicked on the file that I want to save, I want to open, I want to work with, make sure I hit the approve button. I said yes. I didn't hit escape. I didn't hit cancel. I didn't hit any of the other options that happen when my app didn't shut down, whatever. I make sure I hit yes. And so if that's the case, then my path is assigned FileChooser.getSelectedFile.getAbsolutePath. So either way I'm working with this is the absolute path. You'll notice I have that result equals JFileChooser.approve option. I have to have that test both times because I either have that same test happening or I simply just say the FileChooser.showSaveDialog equals this. But because a variable makes a lot more sense to actually do that, I'm working with that specifically. It's easy to trace through your code and go from there. And then whatever path I pick, whether it's a loading path or a saving path, I have the string of that value that I can work with inside my project so I can actually work with that later on. So then it leads me to my two next parts. I have to either do a loading a file to load with, or I have the custom save. Let's go ahead and take a look at customSave first because it's the one right here. So our customSave method and our pickFileToLoad method, as you can see, they're both private void methods. They're only called internally, so I've got my quick little header right there. There's nothing I have to worry about for that. We're going to take a look at customSave to start. And so you can see on my customSave path right here, I've got my string path equals getPath passing it save. So I'm going to save a file with that. And my file name is contents.txt. Really creative, I know. And then I'm going to say, hey, app.save, take the text that's currently inside the data area of the project I'm working with and send that with the path plus file name, because I'm going to concatenate those two results where I'm going to say, oh, here's the path that I just created and the file name I'm specifying, and I'm going to want you to save that file right there. Our pickFileToLoad method is also a void method, just like that as well. And so in this case, I'm going to say string path equals getPath, and I just passed it an empty string because, hey, it's not save. So we're good to go. And then contents are going to be the load path. So I'm going to say, hey, this is the file I want you to open up. And I put that into the contents, that string. So the app.load, the actual IL control work handles from that. Take a look at my IL controller video. It's a great way to practice with that as well. And then, hey, I'm going to set the text of that to the contents of my data area. And the data area set background to gray and my foreground to magenta. So I can actually grab that value and save it right there. So I have information I can actually work with and save. And so that's how we can actually put the framework for that together. Now, because I have these two methods right here, they're private, so they can only be used inside this. So we're going to do that inside our setupListeners. And my setupListeners, you can see right here, I have my text button, .addActionListener, and I'm using the lambda notation here. So I'm going to say, hey, click, direct your results to the customSave method. Or 2D button, direct your results to the pickFileToLoad method. So I have the information so I can test that out right here, and I'm using the existing project just so I can see how this works. So here we have the project right now. You can see I've got some buttons and stuff right here. I have my custom saving button right here, and I have my text button, which is my 2D button right there for my other one that I'm working with. So I can grab that information right here. So I'm gonna use my 2D button so I can grab a text file so I can get some information in that specifically to start off. So I'll click on that, and I'll choose the file. So I'm gonna go over here to my downloads folder. And let's go find a text file right here. I've got aggregate demos.sql. It's a text file, even though it's .sql extension, but I can use that right there. Go ahead and choose open on that. And boom, I have some text right here. It's a lovely bright pink on a gray background. Wonderful stuff. You can see I've got my text right here. I can't edit it at all, but I can scroll through and see all the text that's inside that field. Wonderful stuff. So I can have that, so I can load a file into that process, and that's the actual contents of that file. And then we can do the custom saving button. So I'm going to grab the text that's inside here, and I'm going to choose a directory. So I'm going to go back to my documents directory, my downloads directory right here. And I'm going to choose my downloads directory and save it. And I'm going to bring up my Finder window back up. And there's that contents.txt because this is what I specified for it. And my contents.txt, open that file up. And boom, there's that same information that was in there. So it's great. I have that information. I'm going to delete those contents right here and just do, hey, sample. And save that. So now it's totally something different. We're going to go back over here into the project. I'm going to do my 2D array. I'm going to load that file. So I'm going to go back to my downloads folder. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do date modified so it's easier to find this. There's content.txt again. Okay, go ahead and open that, and boom, hey, sample, it works. I can totally load that file up. So I'm able to both save and load data using that. And so again, I'm using the JFileChooser to make that happen. And all that work happened right here inside my getPath method. I chose the option to either to get the directory or get the files path right there, so I can get the information for that and be able to load the information and test it out. The actual process of opening and reading those files handled via the IO controller information. This is just a way to actually browse to and choose that. If you have some questions on this, take a look at some other videos. You can see how to do that. But cheers. Thanks again. Have a great time. See you next time. Bye-bye.